Okay, let's move on to a team that is going to be rebuilding around some younger players. Moved on. The Memphis Grizzlies finally moving on from Mike Conley. The grit and grind era is over, but there's some interesting things here. The Tyus Jones contract stands out as maybe being a bit much. They committed to Jonas Valanciunas, but there's also some really interesting young pieces here to where maybe they've got something brewing here in Memphis.
Yeah, I like a lot of the things that they did. Here was I thought they got a really good haul for Conley, and they were able to then flip some of those guys into other things. So at the end of the day, the big names that they added were John Morant and Brandon Clark at the draft. Those two guys should be really good for them. Then they went out and trade and picked up Josh Jackson and DeAnthony Melton for Javon Carter. And that's taken a real flyer on Jackson, who hasn't, panned out, but maybe, change the scenery. And you finally get this guy who, there were several people who liked going into the draft. Mm-hmm. And then Melton is a guy, he's kind of NBA draft Twitter's, darling, and, all this. I kind of go back to, well, if this guy's good, why didn't he play? He was on the Suns last year. And, I know the easy answer there is, well, because the Suns are stupid, but we'll see. And then you mentioned it, right? They re-signed Jonas Valanciunas, so that's, fine. I have no problem with that re-signing because I don't want Jaren Jackson Jr. to have to play the 5 full time. So I fully get that. You're protecting your, at this point, your, either your first or second most valuable commodity on the team, but it's either him or Morant. And then Jones, that one, it's a little bit of a head scratcher because you let DeLon Wright go and replace him with Jones. And I think Wright's a better player than Jones. That's just my opinion. But what was bubbling out here when I asked a couple of folks about it is Wright was not going to be, it wasn't going to be a problem, but he wanted to play and play more. And where Jones is, I think, accepting at this point of, hey, I'm a high-end backup. I'm not saying I'm fine because they're going to hand the reins to John Morant and go. But yeah, now they've got a bunch of veterans on the team like Jay Crowder, Andre Iguodala. It sounds like they might buy out Iguodala, but they're going to see where things go. I think they'd like to bring him in and have him around some of the kids for a little bit at least. And then Crowder, we'll see. Solomon Hill and Miles Plumlee, they ate those two contracts to get a couple assets on the books in terms of draft picks down the line. They waived Avery Bradley. They traded for and then waived Dwight Howard. And then Grayson Allen's there, second year guy. Maybe he can become something. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting team in Memphis. I think they're going to be really, really bad. I think they're going to be absolutely terrible. But that's kind of what we knew was coming. So it's about being bad with a future, and they do have that.
And I don't have it in front of me, so this is off the top of my head, but I believe their pick is top 6 protected.
That is correct.
Okay, so that
goes to Boston.
So it behooves them to be very, very bad this season.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then it'll go to Boston unprotected in the next season. So it kind of depends on where you're looking draft wise. Mm-hmm. I'm far from a draft guy, as you know, especially this far out. So, I think we'll have a better idea when we get around the trade deadline of where they're at and should that pick convey, not convey, and what is the draft starting to shape up as? Is this year or next year's better? And then that's when they can really, we'll get a sense of where they're headed at that point.
Right. Good point.